People think we're motivated by pleasure. And if you that we're actually motivated by the avoidance of discomfort. Horniness is a form of discomfort. So you're motivated to relieve yourself of the horniness. And if you look at any aspect of your life, when you're procrastinating cleaning the house, or you're procrastinating, I was in the jungle, I noticed this pattern where every time I picked up my phone, like just needlessly, was because I was at a hard point in the book.
Yeah.
So every single time I'd get to a point and I was trying to summarize it or find some research to back it up. Within 30 seconds, as if I'm possessed by this puppet master above me.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, start swiping, and I'm on Instagram. And I go, fuck, of course, I'm avoiding the discomfort. And it's so important to get clear on that, because you need to understand the forces that are pulling and pushing you. And then you can say to yourself, okay, why am I avoiding this chapter? What is it? Well, I don't feel researched enough on this subject matter. Okay, well, I'm going to step away from the computer and I'm going to read that book or watch that YouTube video, as opposed to just banging my head against this Word document. You can, if you become aware of the discomfort, you can counteract it. But if you're not aware of it, it's an object you just can't hit. So that changed my life, that question. What is the psychological discomfort I'm avoiding right now? You look at any aspect of our lives where we experience growth, it's under pressure. There's an old cliche adage about how diamonds are made, which I think, although is cliche, speaks to this in such profundity. And even when we think about the comfort crisis we're living in and all of the health outcomes and predicaments that we're facing through our obsessive pursuit of comfort, and how the body has started to break down, and we've got all of these mismatched diseases, they call it, where the world we're living in and the way we behave within it isn't aligned to who we are. It's the avoidance of pressure. And it goes back to what you said earlier about avoiding that difficult conversation or that difficult piece of work. If there is an antithesis to pressure, it is, in my mind, it is comfort. It is ease. And that means that today is great and tomorrow is bad. And anyone that has the foresight to move that discomfort and that pressure into the current moment yields much greater returns in terms of happiness and health in the long term. It was that, what is your relationship with difficulty? And everybody, including people in my family who have a adverse reaction to difficulty, just defer it into the future in a bigger way. It compounds against them to make their future harder than their present. So everyone's relationship with difficulty, whether it's difficult conversations or difficult workouts or difficult physical, psychological exertion, those individuals, I think, are setting themselves up for a brighter future. It's, I'm not good enough, I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe, I'm different. All of those things, right? That's the base layer. The interpretation, you're right, there's a story we tell ourselves about our pressure, which determines how we experience the pressure. If you look at that famous TED talk on stress and pressure, what they found out is that stress and pressure don't actually kill people unless you believe it will. You have a negative interpretation of your pressure and your stress. Then it shows up in your physiological response. You get more diseases. But in that famous TED talk, which I think has like 30 million views, she found out that pressure in itself isn't a problem. It's the story we tell ourselves about our pressure that causes us to be unhealthy. And we all have different stories about our pressure. And if your story is that it is X, Y, and Z, it's going to get me kicked out of the tribe, it's going to expose myself for not being good enough. If your story about difficult situations is I'm an imposter versus this is a growth moment, not only are you going to show up worse, you're going to perform worse, and the physiological impact and psychological impact is going to be detrimental. And that's what this whole argument about imposter syndrome is so confusing to me, because if I asked anybody, would you like a life where you were never outside of where you never did anything that challenged you or pushed you? Would you choose that? No. So why are you complaining about your life being full of that? I think anyone who has a healthy relationship with pressure goes in search of continual imposter syndrome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and they would be dismayed at a life without it, without that pressure and feeling out of your depth.